Hi, my name is Patrick, and I'm 33 years old, almost 34, from Richmond, Virginia, and this is my transverse myelitis story. I felt like I wanted to make a video about my transverse myelitis story because a lot of guys don't make videos. So we see a lot of women, particularly middle-aged women, and we see women who maybe are speaking on behalf of a husband, a boyfriend, a son. But I know that when I had my diagnosis, I would have really liked to have seen other guys talking about what it's like to have TM. So this is my video. My diagnosis I've had for 3.5 years. Initially, it was multiple sclerosis, like many of you. Um, it started because I was losing feeling in the bottom of my feet, and also I had what I thought was carpal tunnel. I spent a lot of time on a computer, and my wrists were feeling really swollen, tight. I had trouble with my hands, almost like I had arthritis, and there was a lot of pain sort of right in here. And so, I tried doing hand exercises, I tried staying off the computer, different things like that. And then I started having this feeling in the bottom of my feet, like tingling, prickling feeling, or like spiders rolling across my feet or my legs. And I remember I would pat at my leg like I was trying to push off a bug or something like that, and I would see there was nothing there. And I thought I was losing my mind. Um, it reached a point where the numbness, tingling feeling was traveling up my arm and was going in towards my chest, and my wife thought I was having a heart attack or a stroke, and so we went to the hospital. Thanks a lot. I had to sit there for 12 hours. They couldn't find anything. They started looking at my arm, thinking that I had an embolism of some kind. And they did an ultrasound of my arm and of my chest, couldn't find anything. And they just sent me home. They said, oh, you have some kind of issue like a nerve that's impacted or something like that, and that's what's causing these problems, and you need to do some arm exercises to release that nerve. I had a friend of mine who's a chiropractor who looked at me. He did some work on me. He tried, didn't really help. And then finally, I was stepping into a shower. I was actually stepping into a bathtub, and the water was hot, but I stepped my foot in and it felt really cold. I was like, that's weird. Why is the water hot, but this is cold? And then all of a sudden I realized, I looked down, my foot was bright, bright red, like a lobster. And I pulled my foot out and I discovered I burned my foot, but it still felt cold. And that's when I knew I had lost sensation in my foot. So at this point in the story, basically this half of my body has lost sensation, hot cold sensation, lost a lot of pressure sensation. And so I just went to a PCP. I went to primary care. And fortunately for me, the person who was looking at me had known a little bit about neurology, and so she took a toothpick and she said, "Close your eyes," and she started, pressing my feet and saying, "Do you feel sharp or do you feel dull?" And I would say, "Dull. Oh, that's dull." And then she would touch me somewhere else and it would feel sharp. And then she said, "Okay, open your eyes." And she said, "I used the same toothpick the whole time. So if you're not feeling things in one place and feeling it in others, you're having a nerve problem, nervous disorder, and we need to get you into a neurologist." Went to a neurologist, and I got the MRIs. They put me on some steroids just preemptively. And that's when we discovered 2 lesions in my cervical spine. And one of the lesions looked like it had been broken apart, so it looked like it could have been 3 lesions. We weren't exactly sure. Nothing in my brain, nothing anywhere else. But because the lesions looked like MS lesions, I immediately went to the hospital. So I was in the hospital around Christmas time. It was actually a few days before my wife and I got married, so she was my girlfriend earlier in the story. But a few days before my wife and I were married, I'm in the hospital. They did the spinal tap. It came out clean. Like I said, I had no lesions in my brain. And the Solumedrol, the high doses of steroids managed to bring down the lesions. Got home. We had our wedding, we went on our honeymoon, but I was having some of the typical issues you may have, like I couldn't look down, so like I couldn't get into a car. If I needed to get into a car, where you would normally bend your head down like a small car or a taxi. What I'd have to do is I'd have to kind of scoot into the car. So I'd crunch myself down, and then I would just kind of jimmy myself in. I had to do that for a long time before eventually that issue went away. And now I'm really lucky I've regained all that motion. Um, some other things got better, so I can use my hands now, which is great. This part of my body right here has regained sensation. All of my arm has. I still have problems with my hands shaking, so a lot of times people will think I'm nervous. For example, by profession, I'm a rabbi, and I had religious services the other day, and someone noticed how much my hands were shaking, and she said, "Oh, yeah, I could see how nervous you were." And I probably was a little bit, but everything is exaggerated with me. So if I'm not feeling well, what would normally have been a 2 is now an 8. So everything is amped up all the time. So I'm standing there, and she could see my hands shake, but it wasn't just jitters, and being excited and all of that. It comes out a different way. So I still have that. I still haven't fully regained, I guess, temperature sensation in my feet. So what I'll do if I'm going to step into a hot tub or something like that is I'll test with my other foot to see if I'm okay, and then I'll try to step both feet in. The worst part, and the things that never went away, the things that never got better, I still have this spider crawl feeling. Like I said, my right foot not only didn't really regain sensation for temperature, but I also have the issue that a lot of you have where you feel like your feet are in ice. So that is constant. I never have a day where my feet don't feel like they're in ice, particularly my right foot. So I deal with that. Probably the biggest thing I deal with is sweating. So I tend to sweat constantly. So right now it's noon, and I've just been kind of sitting on the couch and doing work around the house. But my foot is freezing. It is absolutely freezing. It's about 72 degrees in my apartment. My foot is absolutely freezing, feels like it's frostbitten, and that goes from the tip of my toes up to about my knee, and then it gets slightly warmer in my thigh. But then my face is hot, so I feel like my face should be bright, bright red like an apple. And I'm not sweating right now, but I know if I was going to go do something that was important in some way, if I was going to go give a speech at work or something like that, I would sweat nonstop. Because again, something that is a number 2 level sensation for your average person feels like an 8 or a 9 for me on a scale of 1 to 10. Everything is amped up all the time. My heart beats harder. Like I said, the nerves are a lot greater. Anxiety is a lot harder to deal with. So if I'm ever worried about something, I worry far more than I ever did. And I was a very anxious, nervous child. So this is like, if you think of like middle school level anxiety, I'm sort of there all the time, and it's rough. I've been fortunate, unlike a lot of people, when I was diagnosed, I wasn't paralyzed. I didn't wake up one day and suddenly wasn't able to walk. I see people who are now in wheelchairs. I don't have any of the other issues that guys have to deal with who have TM. I'm very fortunate in that way. But it still stinks. I guess the last thing is some of you have that issue with clothing, right? So like things either feel uncomfortable, like they feel tight, like someone's hugging you all the time, or maybe certain types of fabrics don't feel good. So if I go on vacation and I'm in a hotel, certain hotel bedding doesn't feel good to me. Certain kinds of clothes don't feel good to me. The heat issue and the sweating issue, I seldom, if ever, wear jackets of any kind. I'm not even talking about like business suits, but just jackets in general because I'm hot. Someone said to me the other day, you look so nice when you wear a suit. Why don't you do that more often? And it's literally because I'm in pain when I wear a suit. Now, if I'm going to a wedding or something like that, then of course I'll do the right thing. But it hurts, right? Like for some of us, the clothing can hurt. And as guys, we don't like to talk about that. We never want to admit, when we don't feel good or when we hurt because we were taught to, suck it up. Well, again, why I wanted to make this video. I wanted people to know what it's like and what some of us have to deal with. So I seldom, if ever, wear neckties. I wear jeans and a t-shirt as often as I can. I try to get away without wearing a belt, but that's a little bit hard for me just because of the way my body shape. I have to wear a belt all the time. Shoes, I know a lot of us have trouble with shoes, so I wear Vans, and I found that Vans are really, really good. I used to wear Chucks all the time, Converse, but they're too tight. And so things like clogs, like Vans, any kind of slip-on loafers, even dress shoes. It's funny, the guy who doesn't wear dress clothes because they hurt, dress shoes actually can be really good because you know, in the old days, the dress shoes were just leather, and you had to put insoles in. But now, the ones that are made out of synthetic leather, they have really nice insoles in them. So if you're the kind of person who has to go barefoot a lot, either because of the sweating or because of the pain associated with wearing shoes, this is my new thing, and this is not a paid endorsement, but Vans are really, really helpful. And I wish I would have discovered them sooner. So that has helped me a lot. In terms of things like stress management, just one thing I will say, don't use alcohol as a means to reduce your symptoms or to reduce your stress. Now, look, I'll go have a beer with a buddy, things like that, but you really, for those of us with TM, with MS, NMO, all of these other inflammation disorders that become neurological disorders, don't rely on alcohol or smoking or anything like that to help with stress management and to help with reducing your symptoms. That's a terrible, terrible idea. It's tempting and it's easy. It's the easy way out. Don't do it. As far as my personal drug regimen, and when it was up in the air as to whether I had TM or multiple sclerosis, I made the choice to go off of disease modulators. And I actually made the decision when we still thought I had MS, that I wasn't going to take Rebif or Aubagio. I did not like the side effects. I didn't like the potential damage to my liver. I was worried about issues around family planning, which is another thing, guys, we have to think about. So I made the choice not to do that. Now, I'm fortunate because now that I don't have an MS diagnosis, it's not something I have to think about anymore. But I do want you to know, if you do have an MS diagnosis, you do have the option to say no. It's a risk, right? It's a risk. You know, you're accepting what goes along with that risk. And I am not anti-medicine in any way at all. But do know that saying no is an option. As far as my personal drug regimen right now, the best I've been able to do is fairly low doses of Rebif, or excuse me, of Lyrica, which is my least favorite drug. It's made my hands swell up. I've gained probably 20 pounds because of it. I have the moon face, but it's a drug that I hate how much I love it because it works pretty well. Baclofen can help with the spasms, so I take Baclofen, and I'm most recently on oxcarbazepine, which has also helped a little bit. I'm trying to dial back the amount of these drugs that I take just because of the side effects, but I think I'm in a good place right now for what works for me. And that's the thing for you. You got to find what works for you. So again, my name is Patrick, and this is my transverse myelitis story, and I hope that this has been helpful to you. And I've put my email address down here. If you want to talk, anything like that, I'm more than happy to provide some moral support. And just remember, it's one day at a time. So wherever you are, you know, you've been diagnosed, maybe you're going to be diagnosed, you want some more information about these kinds of illnesses, just know it's one day at a time. Find good medical care. Trust your doctors, but ask lots of questions. If doctors aren't giving you as much time in the office as they should, advocate for yourself. It is okay for you to fight the doctors if you need to, because they're there for your care. And that's very important. You need to know that you're the patient. You're the one in charge. So advocate for yourself. Say no when you think it's the right thing to do. But know that there's lots of us around the world. We're all struggling with this. We're all looking for a cure. And in the meantime, we can provide each other some support. So thanks a lot. And again, one day at a time.